the Resident Evil Podcast. The latest CGI film based on Capcom's Resident Evil has been released in Japan and also in smaller release around other places in the world. Lucky for me, New Zealand was one such location, making me the first of the Resident Evil podcast team to have a chance to sit down and watch the latest title, Resident Evil Death Island. Join me, Rombie, for a brief spoiler-free review as I discuss my first thoughts on the film and where it sits within the CGI film franchise.
Resident Evil Death Island.
So here we are, Resident Evil Death Island. It's still an absurd title, but is it also as absurd as a film? Well, I was honestly not expecting to have been talking about it this early. Instead, expecting to rent the film digitally later this month. Instead, not only did it release here, I was privileged to enjoy a private screening for REP. However, this wasn't due to any special screenings for press or any sort of wrangling on my behalf. Instead, I sat in a theatre this past Monday evening, all by myself. Due to a lack of promotion and possibly interest, the single screening that day had drawn 0 other attendees. Indeed, though, upon arrival to the cinema it was screening at, there were 0 posters or any promotional material for the film on display, and other than the listing of the film on this daily screening board, you wouldn't have even known that the film was on. Still, I am greatly appreciative of the fact that it got a release here in cinemas at all, and that I got to enjoy the feature in a way I wasn't expecting. Well, in 2 different ways, both in cinema and then having that screening all to myself. Oddly, as a side note, while the film was entirely in English and with a clear voice cast, the screening came with English subtitles on screen throughout the entire film for reasons I'm entirely unsure of. The start of the film brings us the connection of what will become the latest villain, Dylan Blake, within its opening moments. This sets up a somewhat historical connection to the main characters via events in Raccoon City in 1998. I can say without spoilers that Dylan was a USS Grunt, one of many sent in to blockade the exits from the city, allowing Umbrella staff to leave, but stopping the local citizens from escaping. We then moved to San Francisco, now in 2015, and the introductions of Leon, Claire, Jill, Chris, and later Rebecca all come very quickly. However, this film is rightly Jill's more than any others, and it's for this reason that she's been placed prominently in much of the marketing as it somewhat deals with her in the years after the events of Resident Evil 5, and her place in working with the BSAA and Chris since then. Leon is on a mission for a missing mechanical scientist named Dr. Taylor. Hot on Taylor's trail, he's attacked and stopped in another quite bombastic opening action sequence due to a reappearance by Maria Gomez from Resident Evil Vendetta. Meanwhile, Claire is investigating a dead orca that is washed up on a coastline for TerraSafe, seemingly attacked by a large creature, and after detecting T-virus DNA in the bite, takes this information to Chris, Jill and Rebecca at the BSAA. Jill and Chris have also been investigating random appearances of T-virus zombies throughout the city in recent days. However, it appears that there is an intentional mutation which is not allowing the virus to spread at all beyond each single infection. However, the zombies appear faster and stronger than they should be, and it is very unclear as to how these people are becoming infected to begin with. With Rebecca's help, they come to realise that both issues are connected, and that all the connection appears to be pointing to something to do with Alcatraz. And so Jill, Chris and Claire head off to the island under the guise of regular tourists to investigate the Death Island. The highlight of the film for me will be the interactions between the various characters not seen together much, if at all, in the past, and the writing does a good bit of work to get the characters in the right places at the right times. You probably won't be surprised by the directions the film takes, and will probably predict any attempted surprises well before they happen. But you'll likely enjoy seeing the interactions between these characters and how they play out to mind how it goes. Visually, as this footage here shows, this is the best of the series thus far, with nicely detailed characters, monsters and environments. San Francisco and Alcatraz look suitably correct and detailed, water effects are very good especially, hair is well rendered, and the quality and details of the character's skin goes well beyond the more plasticky appearances, going back to the first CG title in 2008 with Degeneration, showing how far the series has come in this form. The lip sync, however, is not always perfect, and the CG quality of the characters sometimes veers into some sort of uncanny valley, sometimes looking quite real enough, but then just not quite enough either at various moments. The voice cast is very decent for the characters. There are some odd reactions made by characters that don't seem quite correct, perhaps due to the cast were recorded separately. Also, as most will note for the English cast, it's an odd blend of old and new cast members for the CGI films. For example, Matthew Mercer returns as Leon, even though he's not been used for the character in recent games like the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 remakes. Yet Nicole Tompkins and Stephanie Pancello from the Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 2 remakes reprise their roles as Jill and Claire respectively. Likewise, Sally Safadi returns as Hunnigan, which she has voiced in every appearance of the character except for the most recent appearance in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Compared to the Japanese voices, this lack of consistency is quite apparent once again. For me, the film was perhaps also the most entertaining of all the CGI series made so far, and while there are certainly the same sorts of over-the-top action, cheesy dialogue and some weird plot beats and moments, much like the other CGI films, when it is firing on all cylinders, as a fan of the whole franchise, it's hard not to get caught up and enjoy it when it's going so well. Aside from the opening with Leon, the final action sequences also veer into absurdity at times, on par with sadly more of the Vendetta and perhaps Resident Evil 6 level of action, but the rest of the film holds itself back from going too crazy too often, that it mostly works. Much was said about Jill running along a wall in the trailer, but in the context of the scene it mostly works, and a particular one-on-one fight involving Leon later works very well with some great fight choreography included. On top of all of this, Death Island feels like the first in the series to really connect to both previous CGI titles, as well as fully acknowledge its gaming connections beyond Raccoon City, with clear and obvious discussions and comments that connect to things from recent events, both in-universe and before, including those in Resident Evil 5 and 6. The opening titles also make great use of this game and CGI universe connection to sell this idea, and I hope that any future films in this format continue this trend of trying to tie themselves together like this more and more. Certainly, Death Island is a silly title. Island of Death might have been better, or something else entirely, but the film itself isn't silly, and it hasn't stopped me from enjoying this latest CGI film entry. In the end, on cinema screens or eventually at home, if you enjoyed most of the other CGI films, you're probably going to enjoy this one, and I personally, as I mentioned, enjoy this on an entertaining level perhaps more than any others in the series thus far, and so I recommend you check it out for sure. We'll be talking about the film as a group in an upcoming podcast once everyone in the team has had the chance to see it, of course, so please keep an eye and ear up for that episode. You'll be able to find it here on YouTube as well as the usual podcast platforms or via our website residentevilpodcast.com. Likewise, you can check out more of our other episodes, including our most recent revisiting of the PS2 title Dead Aim for its 20th anniversary, as well as videos here on our YouTube channel by following the links above and also by subscribing. Many thanks also to our Patreon members for all their support, as it helps us make videos and episodes like these. If you wish to sign up for our Patreon to help support us make more of this content, a link is in the description below, as well as on our website. This has been Rombie, and we'll catch you for the next episode of the Resident Evil Podcast.